Good morning, everyone. I'm Sibo. I'm part of the technical support team at Svantek UK. And today I am going to go through some pointers on how to use SvanNET the most efficient way for yourself. And I will be covering some of the project setups, i.e. how to set up some templates, some custom templates for yourself, or it could be providing access for your client. And if you have any questions during this webinar, please email support@svantek.co.uk. support@svantek.co.uk. Okay, so what I would like to start with firstly is to go through the instrument setup. So firstly, normally you would have is your project, and I would just like to point out some key pointers on the station configuration tab and how that will work on the project view tab and how all of the information will be displayed. So if we take a look at the configuration tab first, and over here, as you can see, I have got two stations. I have a noise, an SV307 and an 803 station on this project. So I'm doing noise and vibration. So first, if we go on to edit station configuration, whilst we wait for this to load, I'm just gonna refresh it. And here we are, and we're at the station configuration. This is for a noise unit. First, we have your measurement function. So we're doing standard level meter, and you can either do level meter, first octaves, or level meter mode and third octave. So you can select whatever's applicable for your application. And we have an RMS and LEQ integration. So linear is your readings in dB, and exponential is your readings in pascals. This can later all be configured. And we also have a start synchronization set to 15 minutes. So meaning that my measurements will be synced according to every quarter of an hour. And by default, Svantek always be measuring 3 profiles simultaneously. So it will be A, C, and Z weighting. So whenever you see profile 1, 2, and 3, always refer to your A weighting, your C weighting, and your Z weighting. And as well, we have a rolling LEQ, and this time is totally customizable. And then we move on to storage. And under storage, the main key pointers I would say is your summary results. So you have 2 time periods. You have a summary results period. So this is typically your longer time period. And if we scroll down to the bottom, you also get a time history trace as well. So how these two works is you could use this as a 15-minute LEQ, your summary results. So at the end of the 15-minute period, you get a result. And whether that exceeded your limit or your alert. And you can also look at it in a 1 second time history trace to see which way your max or your min or anything that's applicable for you. So as you can see, I've got a 15-minute LEQ and I've got a start synchronization of a 15-minute. So this means that I would get like my 15-minute LEQ every quarter of an hour. So typically when you start your measurements, the instrument will wait for the next 15-minute period. So if I had to look at my timestamp now, it's currently 10:07, and my next 15-minute period will start at quarter past 10. And then if I come out so whilst we're on here as well, we're going to look at setting up audio triggers. And how this works is we can use the audio to alarm as an alert. This would work with your event triggers. So if I go to audio recording, select alarm, I can set my recording time, I can set my pre-trigger time. Pre-trigger time goes up to 8 seconds. And my format, your PCM is a raw WAV file, and your filter is Z weighted, and you can also select a recording range, sampling range, and your length limit. So if you don't want to keep the audio recordings too long, so you can just shorten them to maybe like a 1 minute sample, and a recording time. I can also set that if I want like a 30-second audio clip, and the longest I want it to be is 1 minute. I can then go on to event triggers, and I'm going to touch on, so we can select a time condition for the noise alarm. So you can set it up Monday to Friday between 8 and 7 only. So this could be your weekday event. And then we can then go on to trigger, select source. So here there are multiple parameters and time events that you can alarm off. So first you have your LEQ, you can alarm off your Almax, you can use your rolling LEQ. And as well, you can also alarm off like a projected LEQ, or you feel an alarm based on your L90 or your percentiles. You can also do that. So for example, I will use a 1 second instantaneous alarm. And I can set my trigger count to continuous. So each time my threshold has been exceeded, I want to receive an alert. Or what you can do is you can set a counting period. So for example, if I set it to 5 times, so I want my alert to exceed 5 times, and then I want it to alert me, or I can just leave it on continuous. And I can set my threshold to 65 dB. Then select OK. And if I go to actions, add action, I can add an email, or I can add an audio alarm. So the audio alarm will be based on the audio recording tab that I have set. So meaning that whenever my threshold has been exceeded, it will also capture an audio clip of that exceedance level. So once I've set up my station, I can then go on to apply settings and select yes. And once I've applied my settings, I can then go back onto the project. And as I mentioned earlier, you would see this symbol, meaning that the instrument is waiting to sync its time to start its measurements based on the next quarter of an hour, which should be 10:15. And this is for the next second unit I would like to go through the station configuration is the vibration unit, the SV803. So if I go into edit station configuration, and I can set up my So as standard for this instance, we're going to use the BS7385-2, meaning that I can do PPV and VDV simultaneously together. And according to the standard, you get your building types, you get L1 and L2. You can select whichever building type that will be applicable for your application. And I can leave my human vibration. And over here, I can, by default, I would have my VDV filters predefined, so WD, WD, WB. And if I go into storage, I can select my PPV step. So your PPV step, you can select your time period up, down. You can go down to like 1 second, and your human vibration step, your shortest time period is 30 seconds. And you can also get like a spectrum velocity, but for this instance, I won't be needing that, so I can just turn that off. And these are my results that I'll be getting for my parameters for the velocity and my standard VDV filters. I can also set up a WAV recording if I need to. Same, this principle would apply the same as how you'd set up an audio recording for the SV307, but however, this would be a velocity, a vibration WAV file, not an audio clip. And this is the same as well for the vibration unit. I can go into my event triggers and select add event. I can set my time condition. I can go to time limits and my event duration. So if I want it based on like on a 1 second peak, or if I want it to be like a continuous 5 second event. So if my event continues to happen for X amount of time based on a 5 millimeters per second threshold, and I want to be able to receive that alert, and this is where I can go and define my event duration. And SMS and email break alerts, so meaning that the system will wait at least 1 minute to send you the next alert if it's continuously being triggered. The next event, the next tab is trigger. So we select our trigger and we can select our source, whether we want to alarm off like a PPV, RMS, a rolling RMS, a curve if we are measuring like VC standard, you can alarm based on a curve, or you can alarm based on a vector. And then you can set your threshold and you can set your event counter. So each time the threshold has been exceeded, you want to receive an alert. What you might find that if you are aware that there is a lot of piling that's going to be happening on site, but you do know that the threshold will be exceeded, and you want to reduce those alerts being pinged to your email. So if you had to set this to 5, so 5, and then it would give you like event counter mode if you leave on consecutive, meaning that if the threshold continues to be exceeded 5 times, you only want to receive 1 alert. So based on 5 events, you only want 1 alert, so you can set that up over here. But for now, I can just set that to 1 on a continuous basis, and I can do OK. And then same over here, I can go to add action, enter an email. If I select on the name, and it will add them to the recipient. So once I've gone through the setup, I can also another thing, like key feature on the SV803, it's been able to enable power saving mode, meaning that the modem can go to sleep. And how this operates is if you can set your power saving mode to periodical, and you can set a connection period, so every 2 hours. So the shortest time period is every 15 minutes, or you can go up to like every 24 hours. So every 24 hours, this means that the system will upload once a day, and this would significantly increase the battery life on the unit. So for example, if you had to leave the unit based on like a 2-hour connection period, this would significantly increase your battery life up to 8 or 9 weeks. But for this instance, I'm just going to leave it on continuous and apply settings. So once I've applied my settings, I can go back to the project, and I'm going to go through the first tab on the right hand side, which is your view tab. And we have some really great features in here which you can use. So firstly, as you can see, by default, as I've configured my vibration according to the BS735 standard, I do get a dominant frequency plot, which tells me my building type L1, my threshold, and an L2. I've got my noise monitor over here, and I've also got my vibration unit measuring ppv. So firstly, what I'd like to go through is being able to use some of the new functions that we've got on this project view tab. And the first one is being able to configure your template. So if we go over here to the settings cog, and we can turn on edit mode, meaning that we can move panels around, switch positions. And once you've done that, you can then save that as a template, or you can turn off edit mode, and you can also upload your company's logo. This could be your logo or your client's logo that you want to use. You can upload them over here by just clicking on upload image. And then, so some of the features that you get on SvanNET project view page is, for example, I'll show you one of them is being able to use limit lines. So for example, if you are working according to a guidance and the council has probably just set you tolerance lines that you cannot exceed, and just to make that data visible, you can use limit lines. So if I select limit lines and select enable, and I can select my threshold. So for example, let's say that I've got a 65 dB or 68 dB. This could be like my red. Okay, then well, let's just change it and just make it 70 dB, my 1 hour LEQ 70 dB. And I can change the color to red. I can select apply, and then I can add another limit line if I want to. This potentially could be my amber line, and this could be, for example, let's say this could be 67 dB, and I can change my color, see if I can find amber, something close. Oh yeah, that would do. And then as you can see on my noise chart, I've got my amber tolerance line, and I've got my red tolerance line. So as you can see, if I had to just untake some of these parameters, so I can view the data, and I'm able to see my amber and red line, whether have I exceeded those thresholds or not. And this applies same for the vibration unit as well. I can add tolerance line. So if I go, so to add these, so each chart has its own edit button, and as well as you have an edit button that you can use for all of the charts. For example, if you want to change the time periods, or you want to select a set period of results, that you can also use that to generate your report. So if we go back to the vibration chart, and we select the edit button on the vibration chart, we can use markers, limit lines, and we can select our threshold. So this could be 3, and this could be red. So as you can see, 3 millimeters per second, I have a tolerance line going across. And the good thing about this is as well, you can also auto scale the values that you can see on the vibration chart. So mine is only going up to 4 millimeters per second. So if I go back to the edit button, and I can go to plot settings and auto scale Y. So my maximum, I can increase that up to 10 if I want, and then I just select apply. and then it will increase my scaling value, as you can see over here. And another cool feature that we have is that when you are doing noise assessments, you can use heat maps. So the heat maps, it will work like a traffic light system. So if I go onto the settings and I can go on to configure panels, I can then go on to add a new panel. I can select whether I can select charts, events. So if I select events and then I select add, it would give me an events table. So each time my threshold has been exceeded, all of those events will be displayed over here. If I select the event, and on my chart, it will give me a display of the event when it was exceeded. And as I'm capturing an audio signal as well, I can also listen back to that event from this event view page by just selecting, by simply just selecting there's a play button next to it. And by clicking play, I'll be able to listen back to the exceedance threshold. So to notice that how those events do include audio clips on them. On the events table, you'd see like a little audio symbol on that event. But if I keep scrolling down, you can see on my previous event, I wasn't capturing any audio clips with that event, so it was just basically an alarm on its own. Also, what I'm going to add on to this project is an heat map. So if I go back to the configure panels, add a new panel, instead of selecting charts, I can select heat maps. I can select add heat map. And when I go to add heat map, now I can configure my heat map. So there are various ways that you can use the heat map. So for example, if you want to view your 10-hour working day LEQ, for example, or you just want to view your hourly LEQ, whether you have exceeded that 1 hour LEQ period or not. However, I'm going to show you how to set up both. So if we go into add heat map, so if we call, so on the panel title, you can rename all of your panels. So for this one, we call it daily. You can leave that to, so at default period, so we can select like a time range from when we want to view our data. So for example, if I select base like from the last week up until today, I want to view, and I can select my aggregation step, 1 hour, daily, sorry, and I can use my time history. So the good thing about SvanNET is that, as you remember when I mentioned at the start, on station configuration, you get your summary, results, and your time history. SvanNET will be able to use that time period, that 1 second data, to calculate. So each second will be taking an LEQ reading. You'll be able to use that data to calculate your 1 hour LEQ or your 10-hour daily LEQ. So if I go to time history, I can select sound, I can select my AEQ, and I can select my threshold. So for example, I can set that my amber to 45, and this could be 55, for example. And then, so if I toggle or use default, I can set, and then enable, I can set my parameters daily, and I can set whatever my working time period. So for example, if you've got a site that normally do their work from 7 till 5 or 8 till 6, whatever might be the case, so this time period is totally customizable according to your guideline or your site times. So I can set that's from 8 o'clock until 6 o'clock. That's my 10-hour LEQ. and 45 is my amber, and 55 it's my red. I can then select add heat map, and then it would give me my daily LEQ. So if we hover above the chart, I can see my values. Or what you can do is, if you want to display your values, so you can select the edit button for the events chart and go to display settings, and I can say display values. So that means I can see my values. And then what I'm going to do again as well is go back up to the settings cog. So this is the project settings cog, and I can do add panel. Instead of selecting charts, I select heat maps. I can add another heat map so that on this one I can see my 10-hour LEQ, and on this heat map I want to see my 1-hour LEQ. So I can go back in here again. So I can name the panel, let's say 1-hour LEQ. Or should I say LAEQ time range? So the default period. So this could be like if you want to view your data based on the last hour, last day, last week, last month, last year, if you've got your project going on for a year or so, or you can select a fixed period. So let's just go based on the last week. Go on to my measurement point, select time history, and use my time history LEQ to calculate, and SvanNET will be able to calculate my 1 hour. So for instance, this one, it could be 65, and then let's just do 70, and then I can add my heat map. So this is my 1 hour LEQ dating back from last week. I can then go back in there, go into display settings. I can display my values, and I can also display my end hour. So as you can see, from between midnight and 1 a.m., that was my readings. And then here you have it. So now you have like your 1 hour LEQ, which might be easier for either yourself or for your client to be able to view and see when exactly they have exceeded those thresholds or when they have not, and whether they've exceeded like the daily 10-hour LEQ. And what I'm going to show you as well is how you can use SvanNET alarms to set up your 10-hour LEQ. So at the moment we can see we've got like a 10-hour LEQ displayed, and we've predefined our thresholds. So once I've gone through the configuration of my project view and I am happy with how I can view all of my data, I can see my vibration limit lines, as well as on the noise. I can see my events, and I've also got a view of my 10-hour LEQ, as well as like my 1 hour LEQ period for the noise. And what I'm going to then do now next is save this as a template. So if I'll go to the edit button, select templates, I can turn on edit mode and then do save as a template. So as you can see over here, I can save this as my view template. I can just select update my view template to save that. What you can do is have you can also set up a template for your client. So if your client is not really interested in having, so if I turn off edit mode, so if your client is not really interested in having the noise chart, and all they want to just be able to see is just the daily limit based on using the heat map and the hourly values using the heat map, that means you can create a own custom template for that view, and you can do so by making those. So once you've saved your template, and so for example, if I had to, I can remove this chart, Just right click settings and just remove. If I select and then I can just select remove chart. Or if your client doesn't need the event view chart, so I can just remove that chart. And they're not really interested in viewing like the dominant frequency, I can just remove that chart as well. And what I'll be left with is let's just remove that chart for now. And then I can save this as a template. So I'll go back to templates, turn on edit mode, save as a template, and then maybe this could just be a template for my client or a guest view when you share your project, which I'll cover a little later on. So if I go to client, save this, let's just save this as a client view, and then I can just select update. So it will tell me template has been updated. And then if I scroll down to the bottom of here, over here where it says assign templates, and so you can turn different templates. So I'll explain this, how this works. So this works is if you want to give your client access to the portal. So you've got your project and you want to give your clients access just to view the data, or you want to give them managerial access or administrator. So the difference is, as a guest view, they'll only just be able to view the data. As a manager, they might be able to view the data or delete the data. And as an administrator, that means they'll be able to make changes to the station, to the project. And maybe, if it's just a client, you don't want to give them that sort of level of access. What you can do is create a visitors token for them. Now I'll show you how to do that. So if I come out templates, if I go back up, turn off edit mode, and I can go back to my project, come out of my project. And the next one I would like to do is go through sharing. So if we go to sharing, as I mentioned earlier, and manage share access. So under manage share access, so it will tell you a token. If you generate a token, they'll only be able to browse the project. And then if you do shared access as a guest, you'll be able to browse the project. As a manager, as I mentioned, you'll be able to browse project, browse data files, and delete in data files. And then admin would give you full access to the station. And what you can also do is generate a visitors token. So how this works is it will be a link to the project that you've just configured, and this link doesn't expire. So what you can do, you can set up the project view, create a template for your customers or clients, and you can go to sharing, you can select get link, and you can select a token template. As I mentioned earlier, once you've created your project view, you can generate multiple templates. So if we select our guest view template that we've created for our clients, and then we can select update, and then you can copy link, and you can send this link to your client, and it will be an active view link. So if I paste this onto a different tab, and this will be the view, so they won't be able to make any changes or be able to configure anything. So this link will always be active as long as the project is active. So if I go back onto project, and another important thing I would like to cover is on the view page. So if I go back to the view page, and if I load my template back on, if I go to templates, turn on edit mode, load a template, and I can select my view and then select load. And then it's going to load the view that I've generated for myself. So if I turn off edit mode, And let's say, for example, that you want to generate a quick report from this view page based like on a selected fixed period. So what you can do is if you go into if you go into charts 1 project view, you can select charts and you can select a default period. You can say whether based on you want to view your time range of last day, last week, so last month, or you can select a fixed period. So if you want to date back in terms of like creating a report. So say for example that you want to generate a report going back 2 months, so you can go back, select the appropriate date and time from 2. And as well, what you can do is be able to change your logger step. So as you know, on my chart, I've selected the time history. So meaning my shortest time period would be 1 second. So I mean, I can use that 1 second data to upscale it to 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 1 hour, or whatever might be the case. So for example, I can just select 1 hour, and then let's say I just want to generate a report based on the last week's worth of data, and I want it in a 1 hour average. And I can just do apply, and then it would give me all of my readings in a 1 hour LEQ. But if I just only want this one specific chart, I can then go onto the chart. If I just want to export the results based on this one chart only, I can go onto the chart and just select CSV, and then it will export my results in a CSV format. And then that's my CSV. So if I can then go into data, text to columns, and then this would be my CSV file in 1 hour intervals. That's what the Excel file would look like. So I got my LCP, I got my LC peak, my LEQ, and my LAF max. So if I close that down for now, and this is same for the vibration as well. And then I can then go back. I can change back all of this back to my default logger step. So if I select auto, it will set back everything to default. So by default, it's showing my readings in a 10-minute average. Apart from my heat maps, because these are configured differently compared to your charts. And then if I come out of the project, I can then go on to automatic download, and I can use automatic download alarms. So as I mentioned earlier, you can use, so there are 2 ways that you can set up your triggers. So you can either set up your events directly from the unit using event triggers, or you can use SvanNET alarms to set up your alerts. So if I show you an example over here, so if we go into your add alarm, so we can select a time period, whatever might be the case, similar. I can go into my threshold. I can select my result type. So if I'm setting up a noise alarm, so it will be using, so whenever you see noise TH or noise SR, or the SR at the end or the TH, this refers to your time history period, the TH, and the SR refers to your summary results period. So if you remember, I mentioned at the start, as when you configure your summary results, it's 15 minute. I've got mine set to 15 minute. In some cases, it might just be 1 hour. And the time history, I've got my time history trace set to 1 second. So I can either select either of these periods. So I'll select noise TH and I can select my results, so whether I want to be a peak, max, min, LEQ, or I can alarm based on a specific spectrum. So I can just select LEQ. I can set my threshold, and you can, so for example, if you leave your counting period to none, but you're using the TH, so that means it will be using a 1 second time period to calculate your alarm exceeding threshold. So it will be more of like an instantaneous alarm. But what you can do is use a counting period if you need to. So if you go to counting period, and you can select that to either be like a 15-minute LEQ alarm at 75 dB. So if we just do OK, and we can use event counters. We don't want to use any event counter. We can set that trigger period to none, so it will be more of a continuing period. And then you can go in here, you can enter your email. And you can use a comma to separate if you've got multiple recipients. Just be aware that you are limited to 255 characters. Then on the project, so this, and then you can select that specific alarm for that specific station. So SvanNET alarms would work great if you have multiple stations in a single project, rather than you being able to go through each station to configure the alarms. You can use SvanNET automatic download alarms to set that alarm. So you can select the station that's appropriate. And what you can do as well is, if you don't need that alarm, you can also turn it off and turn it back on. And there's also a edit marker next to it, which you can use to rename your alarm. So if I select close, if I go back in there again, I can do add alarm. I can set my time period again, select my threshold, and then I can go on to vibration. So acceleration is if you want to set your V2V alarm, or you can use your velocity, your PPV alarm. Bear in mind that if you are using SvanNET automatic download alarms for your vibration unit, you will need to set an alarm for each axis. So if I use my vibration velocity, I can select peak channel, so you get your channels X, Y, and your Z, so channel 1, 2, and 3. And you can select your threshold. So, and then trigger mode, whenever the result transcends from below the threshold to above. Yeah. And then you can set your counting period. So for example, if I select 5 minutes, so I can want like a 5-minute PPV alarm, or it could be like a 1-minute PPV alarm. And I can do OK. I can enter the email, and then assign a station. And what I can do, I can rename that alarm. That could be, for example, X. My X-axis. And that add recipient. the second alarm, and then I'll have to do the same steps that I've done for the x-axis, and then just go to my threshold, select a peak, and then channel 2 will be my y-axis. I can select my threshold, select a counting period. I can do OK. Same here, just set up my recipient. And this could be my Y. I could give it a name, so I click on the pen. So as you can see, I've got my X, Y, and I would have to do the same again for my Z axis. So once I'm done, I should be able to select apply, and that will apply those vibration and noise alerts. And as you may see over here, that there's a notification that pops up. So you have one or more stations if your download period is shorter than the sleep mode. So as I mentioned earlier, that if you are using an 803 and you are using the periodic upload period, so the periodic upload period needs to match the automatic download period, essentially, meaning that if it's shorter than 15 minutes, the system will prioritize having the modem on unless you select a higher period. And another cool feature is reporting. So if we go onto reporting, we can then go on to configure. So SvanNET, what you'll be able to do is set up an automatic reporting for you. So this could either be daily reporting. You get like a daily document emailed to yourself or to your client, or you can set that up weekly or monthly. How to set that up? If you go onto reporting, configure automatic reporting, add new, and then you can give that a project name. So this would be demo project, and then you can select whether you want that to be like a daily, weekly. So we select weekly, and we can select a template that we want to view our report in. So as I mentioned earlier, when you go into the project view, you create different templates for different users that's required. And for your report, you can also do the same. So if you want an email copy of for your client, or you can select a view that you can email to yourself. So if I was to tell myself I want a weekly report, I can use my view as a template, and I can select recipients. I can add a recipient. Now format it would be like a docx, and then tells you like a wait time. So a wait time usually means that if we do have a station that's offline and it's just temporarily gone offline, it won't just, as soon as the day has completed, it won't just straight away send you the report. It will at least wait for the station to upload all of the data and then send you the report. And if I select the template view, it would give me a template view of what my report would look like when it's been emailed. So once you've got your automatic reporting set up, and then, yeah, thank you so much for listening for today's webinar. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to do much more webinars like this and be able to show you how to use SvanNET and make you get the most out of your system. And that's all for today. Thank you.